As of late 2011, according to studies reviewed by the United States Government of Accountability Office, zero institutional investors own more than 1,000 single-family homes for rent. So that means even though the home ownership rate at the end of 2011 was at 66%, it is safe to assume that the 34% that were households that were renting were at least generally spread out. Now, I mean, sure, there were companies out there, but there was not a small group of companies that owned the majority. As of mid-June 2022, 32 institutional investors collectively own 450,000 single-family homes, and the 5 largest investors own nearly 300,000 houses. In some markets, like Atlanta, Georgia, they own 25% of all of the households. It's safe to say right now that it's pretty painful for first-time home buyers to buy a house. But when we're talking about how we got to this point and how we can get out of it, I still hear people saying about the out-of-state buyers that came in and ruined everything, the government not helping, home sellers that are refusing to reduce their prices, which to some degree have some responsibility, I guess. But really, one of the main reasons we're in this mess right now is institutional investors. So let's spend the next 10 to 20 minutes talking about how we got to this point, how it felt to transition to where we are now, and more importantly, what we can do together as a group to start fighting this and start working towards some kind of significant change. The 2007 to 2009 financial housing crisis really created a lot of opportunity for these people. I mean, I don't want to get into the specifics of what happened. There's a lot of great resources you can talk about. And really, the movie I really love watching, which I'm sure has been dramatized and it's not accurate, but it's somewhat accurate, is The Big Short. I really love it. If you guys haven't watched it, I'll give you my YouTube account so you can watch it because I have it bought there. Now, the thing about it is if you look at the average or median sales price nationally, it doesn't appear that bad. Where like if you look at the average sales price according to Fred, I mean 2007, 2008, it was like around 300 and it dropped down to like 250, 260. So like that doesn't seem like such a sharp drop. But if I show you local data, like here in my specific area in Phoenix, we can see that the median sales price was like steady around 250 to about 249. In just a matter of, what is that, like 1 or 2 years, it dropped down all the way to 100, 120,000. But what would happen is you would get these big block of houses, right? Just 5 or 10 of them at a time, or just a bunch of foreclosures that were selling at less than 100,000, 80,000. Shoot, I remember 40, 50,000 sometimes. I got my license around 2013, so I kind of missed that. But I mean, looking back at the prices, whenever I help someone sell a house I bought around that time, I just go, gosh, what was I doing in middle school? I could have been buying houses. I could have freaking been making a killing. Or in this case, I graduated in 2010 in high school. So what was I doing picking up the babes and being a ladies' man? So several institutional investors took this opportunity to just buy them. And guess what? They bought them with cold, hard cash. Now, I got my license in 2013, so like I said, I didn't see too much of that. But even around that time when I got my license, I still saw a lot of foreclosures, a lot of short sales. And as prices were steadily going up, we started seeing less and less of what I call the investors that would come in and just buy cash. Occasionally, once in a while, you would get a strong cash offer, but it was always like either at list or below list. They were like somewhat strategic. Nothing like what we saw during COVID, which, spoiler alert, was absolutely insane. Now, I don't know what these guys are thinking because I'm not in their world, but I'm guessing when they saw this, they're like, man, this was an amazing opportunity. They're probably making good money returns on their rentals. If there's a specific asset or house that's not performing well, at that point, they could just sell it and make a bunch of their money back, because literally from that time, you would buy a house, sell it 3 or 4 or 5 years later, make a ton of money, and you're a freaking Warren Buffett. So the powers that be probably saw this and said, this is great. And whenever there's a next opportunity, we're going to take advantage of it. During those days, if you had a listing, you were hoping to price it decent and sell it for like a little bit more. So a list price cash offer wasn't like amazing. It was like should we go for the list price cash offer, or should we go for the offer that's offering 10 or 15,000 more, but they want closing costs? And a lot of sellers, a lot of times always Most of the time, sellers went for the higher option because they went for the more money. But whenever you had a situation where we needed security, like we were buying another house or something along those lines, they most of the time went with the secure route and just sold it cash to an investor. That's how they existed. They existed within like small transactions with agents, and they would buy only specific houses that met specific criteria, but they were nowhere near the scale they were before, until, once again, like I mentioned earlier, the opportunity popped up. And that opportunity was, unfortunately, the COVID market crisis. Let me describe how it was for a normal day during, mid 2019 to like maybe the beginning of 2022. Okay. If you were looking to buy a house, you were looking at at that time, maybe 300,000. You would get a list of houses every morning. You would see that house. The second you saw that house in your email or text, you immediately needed to have called me. I like this house. Let's go now. It's 9 a.m. We schedule an appointment as soon as you can make it is 12. We're there by 12. By the time we get there, we're probably like the seventh person. And there's like a little line forming outside. Before I get there, I call the agent just to confirm, hey, this is the situation. We've been looking for this long. How many offers you got so far? Oh, we have 3 offers, sight unseen. House is listed for 320. The offers are 330, 335, and there's already one for 340 that's waiving their inspection and their appraisal. We go look at it, and if you like it, we call again, and hopefully by then the agent's still answering their phone, because sometimes they would get overwhelmed, and then say, okay, what's the situation now? Okay, we have 10 offers. We're not going to consider the bottom 8. I'm going to give you the top 2. Top 2 offers are 350, 360, both waiving their inspections, both waiving their appraisals. We would sit down, we would find like a way to not necessarily waive everything, but like try to at least have an appraisal gap, or if it doesn't appraise for a price, we can cover that gap up to a certain amount and just make the best offer we could, try to match them 355, 360, and then throw that offer over, and then wait a day or two only to find out the house sold for 380 to a cash buyer, right? And then we would have to suck it up and keep looking until eventually there was a sweet spot where one weekend or one day there was like 6 houses that got listed, so everybody spent like all their time fighting over the top 3, and we picked up one of the ones that didn't get as much attention. And it didn't have to be that way though. There was like a sweet spot like mid to late 2020 where, you'd get a house and there was a lot of buyers out in the market. So you'd have a bidding war, but it would resolve itself organically. So let's say a house is listed for 300, you'd get a little bidding war between 2 or 3 people. Maybe it would sell for 315, 310, no closing costs, no inspection, no waiver. They would do all that, but it would sell realistically like a little bit higher. And it happened for a good solid chunk of time. But then I remember just out of freaking nowhere, dude, like you would be in a bidding situation and they would go, oh, we got an offer 50,000 above list price cash. We couldn't compete with that. They would just come in and just demolish us. It's like these companies wouldn't really do any research. They just had a standard percentage, like whatever it was listed at. Their job was to secure a certain amount of houses and just offer 20%, 30%. I would love to talk whoever was in charge of making offers during that time, just to kind of hear what their process was. If you look nationally, it's not that much that they own. I think it's like 2 or 3% they own nationally. But what you need to focus in on is on major metropolitan areas. Like if I show you this map here, Phoenix, Arizona, 14% of houses as of 2022 were owned by these institutional investors. 10% in Las Vegas, 25% Atlanta, Georgia, 21% Jacksonville, Florida. It's just too much. I don't know. I'd like to know a little bit more about the 25% number in Atlanta. I'm not there personally. I would love to talk to someone that's in there or near there, but I can talk about the 14% here in Phoenix. Now, personally here in Phoenix, we don't need more listings, okay? Right now, we have approximately, let me check real quick, 26,000 houses for sale. And if I look at the numbers that are like all the pending houses currently under contract, there's approximately 7,500. So if I actually look at closed numbers, it's a little more scarier because that'll actually give you the real number. Let's do the last 31 days of closings. 7,000. So about 3 to 4 months of inventory that we have. I'm not saying they need to just put them all back on the market, okay? And I'm also not saying that the problem is rentals. Like, oh, we don't need rentals. We need everybody to own. That's just stupid. If I show you a historical map of home ownership rates throughout the United States history, we can see there's like no right number that we should be at. Currently, we're at 65.1, and we did see a big old boost here during the COVID days, right near 2022. that sharp droply, 2021 around there. There during the 80s and 90s, we're in the low 60s. There's some high points during the 80s at 65, which is where we are now, and we were at 70 right before the huge market crash. There's always going to be a need to at least what 30 to 40% of houses need to be rented. Like there's nothing wrong in my opinion with 65.1, but I believe that 30% should be owned by people. Is that crazy to think? It shouldn't be run by funds that are for profit. The 30 to 35% of people that are going to be renting their home for a profit, and yeah, maybe there might be companies that own a few hundred houses. I'm not saying that's not possible, but I think there's just a problem when large institutional investors are responsible for double-digit percentages in major metropolitan areas. So I say this with all the bass in the voice I have, which I don't have much, but I'll lower it just for this sentence. They are responsible for the large increase of home values that we saw during 2019 to 2023. If they had just let the market be the way it is, we would have seen an increase, but we wouldn't have seen such a massive increase. So part of the problem of why houses are so expensive are because of them. And now they're getting stuck with that bill. In researching this video, I found this article. I don't know, for some reason, it must have skipped my mind in April, but they're going to pull a $778.5 million bond deal from the market. Pretium Partners, for those that don't know, is essentially part of the funding group that help like Progress Residential. If you want a fun callback, I made a video 3 years ago with a lot of outdated references. If you want to go back and watch it, it's a fun one where I kind of discover Progress Residential. I do more digging and I find out Pretium Partners are the funding force behind this company. Anyways, the canceled bond deal essentially means they have less money to buy homes. So they're in a way saying we're stepping out of the buying game. So they're no longer going to be a threat for now, at least. But the reality is they own a bunch of houses. Here's the situation with them. They bought these houses cash, right? With their funds or their whatever. I'm not sure, it wasn't with actual cash. It was probably like funds that they got. And odds are they probably have a bunch of equity on a bunch of their houses. So they bought the house for $200K, $250K. And now, even though, yes, at one point it was up to $500 or $450, that's now $400, $380, they still have some profit. So these companies have the ability, if they wanted to sell their homes, to sell them, but also try to reduce the price as much as possible. So let's say, for example, there's a neighborhood for $400,000 houses. They have a house there that's that's been rented out and they haven't really taken care of it. Let's say they're in a situation where they can't rent it out no more, so they're forced to sell it. They can maybe try at 400, but eventually they have the flexibility to reduce the price to 350, 360, 370 and sell it cheaper. And now everybody has to kind of slightly reduce their price because of that. So they have the ability to make some change, and I don't think they're going to do it. So here's my advice and my tips for us to kind of start making at least some micro level change. It won't be massive changes. It'll just a few inches of change, but a few inches is massive. Okay. Number one, if you're considering renting soon, do your best to rent from a local person, not a company. If you're renting from a company, I'm sure there's a lot of good companies out there that own, of 50, 20, 30 houses in the neighborhood or in the city that you're in. Like, try to keep it as local as possible. That's a lot for me to ask. I totally understand. I'm coming from a place of privilege here saying, oh yes, if you're renting, please don't do this, do this. It's going to be hard to find a rental anyways. I get it. But if you have the option to go between a institutional investor rental company versus somebody who bought the house 5-10 years ago and now uses it as a rental, do your best to go and keep your money local. If you decide to go rent one of these companies' rentals, that is a secure asset for them for the next 12 months. And the more houses they have that aren't able to be rented out, the more money they're going to be losing. And unfortunately, they're going to have to make up that money somehow. And they're going to do that by selling that house eventually down the road. And if they're able to get it sold at a lower price than what the average prices are in that neighborhood, I consider that a net positive. Second thing we can do is start working towards homeownership. Oh, brother, the realtor's saying to buy a house. What a freaking surprise. I get it. I know. Throw another tomato at me. The fact of the matter is, if you are able to secure a home within your means, and you belong to the 65% of households that have an owner-occupied home, you are protected from these investors. You're protected from rent increases. You're protected from any kind of situation. Now I add a caveat. Work your way towards a smart purchase. Smart purchase meaning you're buying within your means. Geez, go watch my freaking other 100 videos I've made about this topic. Affordability, emergency fund already secured. Make sure you're buying within your means. Make sure you're buying within security. Make sure you're checking out the neighborhoods. You're checking out all this. There's a lot of. You can just start clicking down my videos and you'll find how to lead you down that road. I also have a bunch of home buying resources to help you. Just do it intelligently, but actively work towards it, because if you're in that 65% bracket, that's the best thing you do to not support these companies. Last but not least, stay aware and stay present, my friends. Right now, geez Louise, this world seems to be on fire. There's a lot of things to worry about, and I'm sorry to add another thing on your plate. Just be aware of news articles about proposals happening regarding institutional housing. Here I found an article from March, which I'm not doing a good job of this, so I'm definitely using this video as a wake-up call for myself as well, where FTC was investigating mega investors in housing and what's next for institutional households. Something like this. Maryland is making its own push to get it. They submitted an act, an End Hedge Fund Control of Maryland Homes Act of 2025. What ended up happening with that? It was withdrawn by sponsor. Now, granted, I have as much confidence in these freaking senators and governors and enacting positive change more than I have confidence in myself sticking to my freaking diet so I can lose some weight. But next time you vote, it's something you can be mindful of. Has the people that you're voting for, have they spoken about this? This is a core issue. Even though you already own your home, or maybe you're at a rental that you're secure in the next few years, it's still something that I believe most of us can agree with. I don't think there's any, unless I'm wrong here, I think the majority of people will agree institutional investors are not good for the net good for this world. Literally, It's a Wonderful Life, one of my favorite Christmas movies. What's the name of that freaking old guy? Mr. Potter, right? We even use since then Mr. Potters of the world are not good. So be aware of it and have it be a topic when you're on the poll, when you're trying to enact change, something that you are aware of, and just have that be in your brain. But anyways, I'm looking forward to your thoughts. Let me know, please, if you have anything to share, if you have a story during the COVID days of how crazy it was, if you have any experience with these institutional investors. I think now more than ever, our community is important. I know it's really weird times right now, and this is another issue to bring up, but I feel like awareness is the first step. If there's something that I didn't mention that you feel people should know, let me know. And now I'm going to be a dirty sellout. If you're in the Phoenix, Arizona area and you're looking, or anyone looking to buy or sell, my information is below. I also have a bunch of free resources for home buyers. You can check them out, the link description. And also, I'm announcing I'm going to start my Patreon up again. So I always have these crazy stories to tell. Like, I have a weird situation right now with the freaking buyer that I would love to share with people, but I can't share it on such a public platform. So what I'm going to start doing is, like, once a week, I'm going to record just like a quick 10-minute unedited video of me just talking about the situation, change the names, change the addresses, so give you real life experiences of what's going on, and posting it on Patreon so you guys can hear those stories and learn from them. So if you're actively looking to buy, also just so people don't make the mistake, if you're planning on getting the home buying resources, if you go to the Patreon, there's a small fee to join the Patreon monthly, but you can get the resources there as well. So don't double pay by doing that. So if you're planning on going one, just a heads up. Appreciate you guys. Looking forward to chatting with you. Remember, be a George Bailey, not a Mr. Potter.